Hey guys, Cam from 15 back at it with another video for you guys, and I'm back with another anime movie review for you guys. And honestly, I think the final anime movie of the year, 2022, that I went to go see, and that was the movie that ends off the series, the anime series for the quintessential, which is the Quintessential Quintuplets. Okay, this movie this movie. Now, I'm going to have a spoilers discussion as well as right now I'm giving you my non-spoilers before I talk about spoilers. But my non-spoilers. Obviously, the number one thing is if you want to know, did I like this movie? Did I not like this movie? Do I think this is a solid conclusion to this series? Yes, yes, and yes. I enjoyed this movie. I liked this movie, and I thought this movie was a solid conclusion um to the series, and it was a heartwarming slash heartbreaking film. Obviously, the number one thing that comes out of this film is who does Fuutaro end up ending up with. I won't spoil that. You have to go see the movie. Now the movie is going to be in select movie theaters. It has now officially come out of the United States, so if you live in the United States, you can go see it. I believe for the United States, I don't know about any other country, but for the United States, I believe you have up until December 7th to go see this movie. Luckily, I was actually scheduled to see this movie on Sunday, but I looked again on my Fandango app, saw that there was a showing, um, and I went to go see it. If you're wondering, knowing what version I went to go see it in, I went to actually go see it in the English dub version. The sub showing is out there too. You can see it dubbed or subbed. Some days have it dubbed, some other days, most of the days have it subbed, but some every other day has it dubbed. But go check this movie out if you like the series. It was a good movie. It was a really good movie, and I very much enjoyed it. The one thing I did like this movie is I thought this movie, was I thought it was a solidly paced movie. I felt like nothing was really rushed. Now I don't know the content from the manga and how much they cut out of it, but I'm an anime only, but I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I thought the movie was well paced, and it was a nice story. It was a nice story. It was a nice conclusion to the end of this series, and I really did enjoy this. The one thing that I kind of took away the most out of this is the one thing I enjoyed is they gave development to each of the quintuplet series sisters at a part of the movie. And the one thing they split it up is, they split it up just getting their point of view for that point of story. Kind of the whole premise is it's their last year in high school, and the movie's based around this final festival and everything. Um and without going into details or going into spoilers and everything, it's kind of Futaro spending time, at least some good equal amount of time, with them throughout these 3 days of this festival, where it ends up to him making his decision on who is he going to choose to end up being boyfriend girlfriend with, and who and which quintuplet ends up winning. The one thing I do like is they give all the sisters development. It's not like how in season 1 and season 2, where you could easily tell some sisters got more development than others. Each of them, I honestly thought, got equal moments of character development, which to them again further develop their character, at the same time giving each quintuplet sister a very solid conclusion to their character arc and in the story they went through from the first 2 seasons into this movie. Obviously the girl who wins ends up giving more development after that is revealed and everything. But again, I'll go into more spoilers about that as well. Again, I like all the characters. Futaro, I thought he was a well-developed character in this film. I liked the animation. It looked really good for the movie. It was Very, again, another colorful, vibrant atmosphere. And again, the animation looked really good. It's pretty much the same animation style they did with season two. Um, but obviously more upgraded because it's a movie. And I really did enjoy this. I really did enjoy this movie. There were some parts where in this film that it's like, okay, some things where it kind of came, some moments in this film that kind of came out of the blue and everything, and then in some cases some things in my opinion weren't explained really well, but again I'll touch about that in my spoilers discussion because that kind of pertains to the story. But yeah, in terms of who won, I was fine with the decision. Again, I won't spoil that, but I was fine with the decision. It was heartbreaking to see the reaction of the other sisters, the ones that didn't end up winning, but the one that did end up winning, I was fine with. And it was understandable. And it was honestly nice and bittersweet. But I feel the number one thing, and as I end off my non-spoiler section, I'll again repeat this in my spoiler section when I reveal everything. But I feel like a lot of people, they may not like the ending, and they may not like the ending because their representative quintuplet may have not won. I'm just gonna say I felt like the story was really focused on the development and the characters, which is Fuutaro and then the quintuplet sisters, but mostly focused on the quintuplet series, or sisters, just from the standpoint, it's about their individual development from the characters they were at the start of season one to where they end up by the end of the film. And when you see that in this film, well, then you can see the full-on change. And even in Futaro's case, he made massive changes as a character as well. I think that was the moral. Honestly, I think that's the moral of the series, is just the change and the growth and the development. Really, let's be honest. Yes, was the factor of who does Futaro choose, was that the interesting factor in this film? But I really honestly feel like the moral of this purpose was just the relationship that is the quintuplet sisters, the relationship between the quintuplet sisters, and even the relationship Futaro has with the quintuplet sisters, and how much of an influence the sisters have on each other, and the influence Futaro has on their life, as well as the quintuplets, nature and their attitudes, folk, their rub off on Futaro and how he's developed as a character throughout the series. Because you can go back from season one, episode one, you can see the differences in the characters that Futaro and the quintuplet sisters were, and by the time you see this movie, you see that yes, do they still have their same personality, their same character traits that made them fan favorite characters? Yes, by the end of the day, you see the development, the change that they took in this journey they went on. And so I really do feel like the number one thing is a lot of people are going to focus on who Futaro ends up winning, or who Futaro ends up choosing, and who ends up winning. I really feel like a lot of people are just going to look into that, and typically people will judge like, oh, this series was good because of that reason, or this series sucks because he didn't choose the girl that I wanted. I'm just gonna say, when you go to see this movie, don't look at this series as a whole and judge it and say it's bad because maybe your favorite quintuplet didn't win. And everything. My favorite quintuplet didn't win. I won't spoil who my favorite quintuplet is. Unless I guess you go and watch my episode reviews to find that out about episode on throughout season two. But I'm not going to spoil it, but I was honestly fine with the decision, and I was cool with it. And I'm not gonna, and honestly, at the end of the day, it's something where I don't look at it and I'm gonna castrate the series, because I know at the end of the day, this really honestly, when I reflected after I was done watching the movie, I'm like, this wasn't really about who wins. It was about the journey that these sisters took from being pretty much snobby rich kids to where they're at by the end, which is people that end up being grateful for what they have and the people within their lives. So I definitely do appreciate. So I just wanted to get that point across. I know there's gonna be some people when they watch this movie that they may take it so damn personal to heart that their quintuplet may have not won and everything. So yeah. But other than that, that's kind of it. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna head over to my spoilers discussion. So if you've seen the movie, you can join me on the spoilers discussion where I talk about the movie in all its spoilers, to what I remember from the film. Um, Otherwise, go see the movie, then come back and go check out the spoilers discussion. But till then, guys, this was a really good anime movie, and this was a nice, solid way to end off the quintuplet series. Definitely gonna rewatch this movie again when it comes out to streaming and everything. So yeah, but till then, guys, catch you guys later, and I'll see you guys in the spoilers discussion if you've seen this movie. Till then, guys, peace. Hey guys, back with the spoilers discussion for the Quintessential Quintuplets movie. Where I'm gonna go into all the spoilers for this film, and well, not all of them, the ones I can remember the most. And I'll give you my breakdowns, thoughts, especially on the quintuplet that won the, I guess, Fuutaro stakes. So obviously, like I said, this movie pretty much is just surrounded around Fuutaro and the quintuplets, just from the standpoint it's their final year of high school and it's their final school festival. And again, it's going to take the school festival takes over 3 days, and pretty much Fuutaro within these 3 days has to come to the decision on who is he going to eventually confess his feelings to, who is he going to admit, because one of the things is, we had this meeting between all of them, and he straight up just goes out to say, guys, I have something I have to tell you. I love all of you guys, which was a funny reaction because all the quintuplets were like, wait, what the fudge? I did not see this coming. What the hell? Uh, Ichika was like, well, that's a great time. Nice job springing that, popping that question, the whole thing. And I was even shocked. I was like, oh shit, he's getting straight to the point. He's just saying he loves all of them. Um, which makes sense. The one thing I do appreciate in this character in this movie is they didn't make Fuutaro dense enough. They didn't make Fuutaro dense. And I know in the past few seasons he was kind of dense and oblivious to some of the feelings of the quintuplets until they ended up actually saying like, no, I like you, I'm in love with you. um but I appreciate that Futuro wasn't dense in this film to where it's like that typical plot line where he has to realize that he's in love with the quintuplets and he's in love with one of them, and then he has to realize that, and then he makes his abrupt decision. They didn't go that route. They go the route of he knows he's in love with the quintuplets. He just doesn't know which one he's in love with the most. And he has to find it within himself who he is in love with the most. And that kind of takes place over the 3 days of the festival. And the one thing, again, like I said in my non-spoiler review, each you know, the movie fleshes out each and every individual quintuplet sister, giving them their own story that ends off their character, that ends off their story. And pretty much it pretty much again comes down to obviously issues regarding themselves, their self-esteem issues, just a flat out, choosing of, the whole decision thing. And then obviously daddy issues comes to that forefront, which it's funny. I think, each Nino and Itsuki, they have the daddy issue storyline. Miku and Yotsuba, they end up having the self-esteem character thing. The self-esteem character thing. Ishika, to me, honestly, Ishika was kind of the person that I guess you can say had the self-esteem issue as well. But it was this whole thing of like, I felt like she was the older sister that was going to be fine with whatever decision was going to happen, even though at the end of the day she was going to be heartbroken by it. She was just wanting to know, what is your decision, Futaro? And that was kind of her. That was kind of her thing, in her story point, or in her thing, which her development was the fact that she's growing and becoming a very big famous movie star, or actress, pretty much, where she's now being featured in commercials and everything, and she can't spend as much time with her sisters as she used to. So the one thing we see is when she has a talk with Futaro, um her whole thing is, well, you're gonna have to make a decision, you're gonna have to choose, and everything. And Ichika, her character has been developed pretty much throughout the entire series, from season 1 and season 2, to the point we kind of know her whole motivation, her whole character at this point. So really, she's just intrigued to find out who is Futaro going to choose. And she actually even asked the question, like, listen, I don't know if I'm going to be there the third day. Like, do you think you can have the heart in telling me who you're going to choose? And at first, Futaro's like, I have no idea. I'm going to choose none of you guys. Um, and the thing is, they end up having a talk with after going to the hospital, with when we find out one of the quintuplets actually ended up collapsing, which it was hinted at, and we later find out it's Yotsuba, and everything. And she pretty much gives him this money. She's like, just, let's go at this vending machine, and here you go. But if the drink you choose is based on who you're in love with the most, and who you're going to choose. And obviously he chooses the drink, and we find out who that case is. But I thought Ichika's story ended up pretty nicely for that point. But again, like I said, her story was pretty much already explained in seasons 1 and 2. The one takeaway I do like is, out of she's one of the sisters, actually, with the exception to Nino, out of all the other sisters, I honestly thought Ichika took the fact that she lost fairly well, honestly. And she has a conversation with Futaro at the end of the movie, when she pretty much tells Futaro, like, hey, you need to make your move and stop doing that. You need to make your move. You just can't have, you know, you just can't have this continue on. And there was a moment where she's like, I might still have a chance because they're not dating yet, in reference to the winner of the quintuplets. The reason why I'm not spoiling it yet now, because I want to save it um for down the road. And it looks like she could do the whole thing where she did in season 2, is try to take advantage of the situation. But no, she actually doesn't. And she just pats Futaro on the back. She says, you need to go be a man and go freaking make your move, which is a character development moment for her. Because you remember back in season 2, she pretended to be Miku so she could try to get the upper hand on trying to get Futaro to fall for her. And because of it, and paying her and the other sisters looked at her at a negative spotlight, saying like, what the hell, why would you do that? And she recalls back to the time in season 2 when freaking Nina was like, if Futaro chooses you, I would still be happy for you. Yes, would I be upset within myself, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to support you, and I'm still going to be there for you, and I'm still going to be happy for you. And I loved how Ichika was like, now I know what Nino felt like, or what she meant by that. Now I see, because she's the oldest sister of the bunch, and she wants to always have her sister's back. So I like that. The Nino thing, and Nino's my favorite quintuplet. She was one of the characters that had the daddy issues in the film next to Itsuki, but this is with their adoptive father. And the whole thing is, she was debating within herself, does she want the adoptive father to be able to go to go to their school festival? And it was this whole thing of her inner struggles. Does she want her father, who, from what we saw in season 2, sounds like he doesn't give a fuck about the quintuplets? But actually, the one thing I actually do appreciate in this film, they actually humanize the adoptive father, and they actually make him sincerely actually show. We actually see the fact that in his way, even though he doesn't put that face on, we see from his actions alone, he actively cares. We actually get some freaking backstory in the guy. We find out this dude, which actually I need to freaking look up this guy's I need to look up this guy's name. Hold on a quick second, guys. I'll be back. Okay. Back. Maru. Maru Nakano. Or Nakano. Yeah. Maru puts on this face like he doesn't care about the quintuplets, but and that's even how they played it off in season two. And in season two, if you go back to my reviews in season two, I did not like the dad. I'm like, shit, the dad is a deadbeat father. He freaking sucks. He's supposed to be there for his freaking children. Um, and everything. Um, and and that was the crazy thing. Now, again, it's been a while since I've seen season two, and I forgot that they reveal like, oh no, he's the adoptive father, but I thought he was like the legitimate like blood father to them, but then I remembered like no, he's not. He's not their blood related father. But again, Nino's battling having that self inner turmoil within herself, like, um I don't think our father cares enough to show up and everything. But it isn't until this one schoolgirl shows up and says, I actually tried to do an interview with Nino's father, and he was there, and it shows like he was there when it looked like Nino wasn't. When Nino was convinced, like, oh, he didn't show up because Fuutaro and Nino throughout the first 2 days were actually looking for their dad and are looking for her dad, and he was nowhere to be found. But we found out he got called away to work, but he was there. She also did do a song and everything. Again, Jill Harris as Nino is great. She's great in all roles she does. Which I didn't make a mention. Josh Grelle as Fuutaro, he was great as well. I didn't make the mention enough. I didn't make a mention enough in my non-spoiler review, my thoughts on the dub cast and the performance they did. But Jill Harris as Nino, I thought she did a great job. Josh Grelle as Fuutaro, he did a good job. Ichika's English dub voice actress, which actually let me go on. Um Quintuplets dub cast. Uh, Finding them right now. English dubcast. Lindsay Seidel as Ichika. I thought she did a really good job too as Ichika. Again, Quintessential Quintuplets is like one of the better English is one of the best English dubs you can actually watch. Like it's one of the best English dubs of an anime you can watch. Highly request if you watch Quintuplets in the sub, watch the dub version. You actually will like it. So yes. But she again going back to the backstory of Maru Nanako, what is it? We find out he was actually a student of the quintuplet's mother, and he was a doctor, and he was trying to help her nurse her back to full strength, but we know she came down with an illness that was pretty much killing her and everything. um and it was this whole thing, and it seemed like he definitely did care about he cared about his former teacher a lot. um and his teacher made the mention, like, after I get out of here, I should make you some pancakes. You'll actually like them, which, I was like, okay. I definitely could see, like, okay, he probably got out. Or when she would get out, they would probably end up getting married. Sadly, that's not the case because she died before that even happened and everything. Which we get confirmation in this movie, like, no, he after she when she died, then at one point they didn't get married. He just came into their lives after, after the funeral was over, or during the funeral. He just came into the quintuplets life and pretty much said, hey, I know we barely know each other and everything, but I knew your mom, and I want to make sure I'm there for you guys, and I want to be your guys' caretaker now. So we find out he pretty much just adopted them. He just brought them in like if it was some last will of his former teacher of the quintuplet's mother, which was probably a thing where the mother was like knew she was going to die, and she probably told Morrow like, "Hey, can you please take care of my children?" Um, and everything. Um, so the thing is, um, Fuutaro and Nino, Fuutaro pretty much makes Nino go and everything. And she goes. They go to Maru's workplace, their father's workplace, and she was there making pancakes. And even though, he didn't like it, at the end of the day, he understood what Nino meant. And I guess you could say in a way, he could see he saw um his teacher, Nino's mother, in her and everything. So, he ends up saying, like, listen, I may be pretty much a dead, which, well, actually, no, he says that in Itsuki. But I like the fact that they actually humanize the dad more. Yes, he doesn't, in his facial reactions, he doesn't show it. But we can tell we can see that he cares and everything. And I actually forgot to mention in the Ichika thing, and the one thing is, in all the quintuplet stories, they all get, with the exception of Itsuki, they all end up actually sneaking in a kiss. So in a way, everybody who's a fan of all the quintuplets ends up winning. So in a way, they kind of get a little bit of a, I guess you can say, a next best thing. They all kiss him. Ichika kisses him. Because her whole thing was, well, you ended up kissing one of us. And Fuutaro's like, well, one of you guys were dressed up as freaking Itsuki, so I couldn't tell which one was who. And she pretty much ended up kissing him. And Ichika ended up kissing him. She's like, well, can you tell who was the one that kissed you now? And I was like, oh my gosh. Nino gets a kiss in, which was funny because at first it looked like when Nino fell, she was gonna get her kiss in. Dad was walking out, and he's like, "You're not doing what I think you're about to do." And he's like, "No, no, she tripped, she tripped." And next thing you know, she kissed him and everything. And then this man turns around, and he's like, because Fuda was like, "Why the hell did you kiss me?" And freaking the dad's like, "Wait, you did what?" And I was like, "This motherfucker's protective, man." It was funny, and pretty much, um, in a way, Nina was telling her dad, like, "Listen, I'm pretty much in love with this guy." She didn't say like she's in love with Futaro, but she pretty much told him, I'm gonna make my own decisions and everything on my own choice. So that pretty much ended off the Nino storyline there, with an exception of her storyline was her storyline continued to the point of her finally accepting the fact that she lost, which it was emotional when it was revealed that she wasn't the winner. And me as a Nino fan, when you had it to where Miku came in and talked to her and said, he made the decision, it's over. And the fact that she just burst out crying in tears, it was very emotional. It was very emotional. And even was pretty emotional when you get to the wedding scene 5 years later. She ends up breaking down and crying because, again, it's pretty hard for her. Mind you, Nino was deeply in love with Futaro. She was one of those characters, I think, out of all the sisters, other than the one that obviously won, Nina was probably the one that loved Futaro the next best. She was probably the second sister that loved Futaro the next after the one that ended up winning. And it was pretty hard for me as a Nino fan to see her break down multiple times. Because obviously it's hard for her. She really did like Futaro, and guess what? Her other sister ended up being the one he chose, not her. And it sucks. It sucks. It hit me pretty hard, especially at the wedding scene when she started breaking down and everything. Because she knew, like, it's it. I'm gonna have no more chances with this guy. That's like, I'm done. So yeah. Miku, again, she had self-esteem issues, and this whole thing, it kind of played in with the whole festival things, the school festival, with this whole stands of takoyaki. The guys going for takoyaki while the girls went for pancakes. And it was this whole thing of learning to stand up for herself, and pretty much tell somebody like, hey, chill the f out, it isn't that big of a deal, yada yada yada, it isn't the thing. And then two, she does also have some nice development time with Futaro, which was nice and adorable. They actually end up going on a date in this movie, onto the zoo. It was nice and cute and adorable. But the one thing is, it was Nino not being the shy girl we saw back in season one and a little bit in season two, to where she kind of kept she kind of kept to herself, and she didn't really speak up on matters or ideas that, guess what, she thought she could probably make a difference in and change. And we see in this week's episode, or we see in this movie, she ends up overcoming that, and being able to stand up willingly for herself, and is willing to express her feelings and everything. And she admits that Futaro was the reason behind that, as well. At the same time, another self-esteem issue of not dressing up as the other sisters and everything, because she knows, it was her, Futaro gave her the strength to be the person she is today, which was nice. And which was nice. She sneaks in a kiss. I think she gets. I think out of all the kisses, the quintuplets give Futaro, she gives the spiciest kiss out of all of them. She literally pushes Futaro down. She gets on top of him, and she looks like she makes out with him for a bit. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, you're trying to get it on the top of the rooftop building of the school? Come on, man. I'm just like, yo, she's really going in for it. And I'm like, listen, she got her kissing, and she damn near made out with him. I literally thought she was gonna freaking rip his clothes off and say, freaking do it with me right here on the school building. I'm just like, Jesus, this girl was going for it. I'm like, okay, yeah, she's confident now. So yeah. Itsuki was another character that had daddy issues. And then they all, well, let's be honest, all the quintuplet sisters had self-esteem issues with their belief within each other. Itsuka had a little bit of self-esteem issues within herself, as well as she had daddy issues. But this time, this daddy issue dealt with not the adoptive father, it actually dealt with their biological dad, which I did not see coming. Now, I will say this. One of my negatives, again, was a story point. This was kind of one of my negatives. The biological dad of the quintuplets, Mudo, he just kind of comes out of the blue. Now, he gets brought up based on a flyer and everything, but he just absolutely comes out of the blue, and I did not see this shit coming. How can I say this? It comes out of nowhere, where in a way the decision feels rushed. If they had established this character in the first couple of seasons, or maybe in season two and everything, and we got some more backstory about this guy, the fact that, okay, after their mom got pregnant, what we find out is the dad was the dad, their Mudo, was okay, let me start from the thing. So Itsuki's whole point in this whole thing is she's not doing good in her grades, and we know her thing. We know her thing is to be a teacher. She said that she wanted to be a teacher in season two, just like her mom, because her mom was a teacher. And she's not doing so well in her grades, which isn't helping her get into a potential good school, a good college, so then she can further her teaching career. So again, all of a sudden, she ends up having this conversation with old bald man, that looks like Watson, pretty much from Pokemon, and he pretty much comes in and springs like, "Hey, Itsuki, it's me. I'm your biological dad." And this throws her for a loop and everything. And the thing is, Mudo was pretty much telling Itsuki, "Listen, I knew your mom, and the reason me and your mom met is I was your mom's teacher. We ended up falling in love, and yada yada yada, and she ended up becoming a teacher, and it was so stressful for her and everything. And yeah, and in a way, I guess you can say that dad Mudo, I guess you can say, says that the teaching had so much of an impact on the quintuplet's mother's life that it practically wore her out to the point she killed herself because of it. And pretty much he's saying you don't need to be like your mom. You need to be something different. You don't have to, don't be a teacher. Don't be like your mom. And pretty much Itsuki, after this conversation, um is she's having this self inner struggle within herself on in her self inner struggle within herself, of what she wants to do. Like she doesn't know if she should be a teacher and everything. And the thing is, Mudo is kind of doing a scummy thing, and he he's kind of a fucked up dude. Mudo is the dad, is obviously the is the type of dad that he's just effed up and he's trying to control his daughter's life because he thinks he's because I'm the biological father. I can tell you what to do. And he was pretty much telling Itsuki, like, you're just trying to copy your mom. Don't be like, you can't do that. Don't be like your mom. You're just copying your mom word for word because she was a teacher. And you have this conversation with Itsuki and Fuutaro, where Fuutaro is like, don't let what Mudo told you get to you. Just because you want to be a teacher like your mom doesn't mean you're word for word like your mom. You have your own differences that, guess what? You know, you have your own difference, and that, guess what? That doesn't make you like your mom. You're just taking the job that your mom did, and you're making your own goal. And you're making your own goal, and your goal is to be a teacher. You know, don't let some dude tell you, oh, you can't do this because, oh, your mom did it. You're doing this because this is your goal. This is your dream. You know, you're doing, yeah, your mom was a teacher, but guess what? That doesn't mean you're like your mom. You're your own, you're your own person. You're Itsuki Nanako. Um that's your dream, that's your goal, that's your passion. You want to do, that's, you want to be a teacher. Don't let some dude come in your life and try to steer you off of that. And we get some more background information on Mudo. He's a complete asshole of a father, complete dick, because we find out that when their mom was pregnant with them, he just ended up dipping on them. Like, he didn't want to have fucking kids. Like, or if he was, I'm guessing he also dipped too, because when he found out that they were having quintuplets, he was like, oh shit, I can't deal with 5 kids. And he just fucking dipped on her, and he just freaking left the mom to live on herself, live by herself, and raise 5 kids. Do you know how that's hard? And on top of it, she's a teacher. And mind you, trust me, I ain't no teacher, but I know teachers don't get paid a lot of money for the work that they do, and they should get paid a lot of money for all the stresses that they have to deal with and everything. And I also do like the fact that Futaro makes the mention in Itsuki's case, because she brings the fact, like, what if I'm not going to be a good teacher and everything? What if I suck, like I'm sucking at my grades and everything? I'm not going to do this. And pretty much Futaro was like, listen, being a teacher isn't easy. You have to deal with a bunch of different students. You have to deal with students that are rebellious. You have to deal with students that may cause trouble. And you will have to deal with students that, guess what? They're so stupid, they may not learn, they may not know what they're doing. And and in a way, he was kind of relaying that, be like, it's like with you and your sisters and everything, because he was tutoring them and he was having all these struggles with them because they weren't listening, they were being lazy, they they didn't respect him and everything. I love that conversation he had with Itsuki. He really did. I really did. I honestly, I think out of all the quintuplet stories, I think I liked Itsuki's the most, because I really feel like it ended off her character arc, her development, the best way possible. And you have this whole thing, and we find out that Futaro's dad and and um Maro, they knew Mudo because he was their teacher um at some point, um and everything. So we end up getting a scene where Mudo ends up confronting Itsuki. He thinks it's Itsuki, but it's actually Miku dressed up as Itsuki and everything. And pretty much, Maru's like, what are you doing here? You can't, that's my daughter right there. That's Itsuki. I'm her biological father. And pretty much Maro is like, and then again shows that, guess what? Maro, they humanized Maro, the quintuplets adoptive father, to the highest max. Because, and I was just like, oh, I like this guy. He actually cares. And I love how he brings the fact he's like, yeah, I'm not the best father. I'm the least one to talk about being a good father. Like, shit, I don't freaking do anything for them as much as I probably should be doing, but please, I can tell my own daughters from who they are, and that's not Itsuki. Um, Everything, and Itsuki comes out and everything, and pretty much, she said, she pretty much tells him like, I don't care what you're telling me, that I can't be like my mom, I can't be a teacher like my mom, because guess what? You're the one that abandoned us, and guess what? You didn't even know who I am, and that's all I needed to know. You didn't know that. Guess what? That's not me. So you're no father to me. So you can get the hell out of here, and I don't fucking forgive you for what you did, what you put our mother through by just upping and abandoning her, as well as you up them and abandon us, and you put all that on our mom to take care of us. Which, that shit hits. It hits hard. Like, that's some real life shit right there. Because there are some people out there in this world, and sometimes it can be their way around. Where, guess what? The mom could end up just being like, I'm sick of this shit. You take care of the kid, and she just dips and abandons the dad. But in some cases, sometimes dads are sleazeballs to where they abandon their wife, their children, because guess what? It's not it's not what they thought what was going to be. Again, I as me as myself, I never want to be like that. I will, if I have a kid, I want to be there protecting the kid, because it's a partnership between you and your wife to protect and raise the kid up to something that is better than. And I love the way they ended off Itsuki's story. And I also loved how the other quintuplets were there too, to see their biological father, and they exposed that Muto guy. Again, I like that storyline. The only thing I did not like about the Muto dude, the character of Muto, is, yes, he was a character that you hate. I just didn't like the fact how they introduced him to. If they had introduced him in season 2, going into this movie, I would understand. I'd be like, okay, fine. But they kind of rushed him in. He came out of the blue. I didn't know anything. So it was kind of, when it was revealed, it was kind of a thing like, oh, so you're the biological dad. Oh, okay, cool. He was kind of, and then he was just kind of there as a character. Um, yes, and then I kind of do wish he had more of an impact on each and every individual quintuplet, not just Itsuki, because, oh, she wants to be a teacher like her mom. But yeah. So yeah. And then the last quintuplet, which is the quintuplet that ended up winning. Obviously, got to save the one that won for last. That is Yotsuba. Now, Yotsuba ends up winning. Now, she ends up having kind of a self-esteem issue, and everything, and that's kind of not brought up really till, um, it's not really brought up till like midway through the movie slash till it's revealed she's the winner. But her whole thing is, since she's like a student, she's like part of the student, board council, whatever. She's trying to do all these things. She's overworking herself, which they make references to the fact like, you're doing so much, you're really overworking yourself. But you probably shouldn't be doing all this much on your plate, to the point it leads into this storyline, where Fuutaro's childhood friend, actually, from elementary school, ends up coming back, um, and it throws the quintuplets for a loop. I honestly thought they were going to go with this storyline where, oh, old childhood friend comes back. She likes Fuutaro, and she's gonna want to get Fuutaro, and then it's gonna kind of be the thing where the quintuplets have to try to deal with her nonsense and everything. It was funny because all the quintuplets were like, "Who the fuck is this?" I lost my mind when all the quintuplets were like, "Wait a second, Fuutaro told us he loved us. He loved all of us yesterday. Who the hell is that girl he's got draped around his arm?" I was losing my it was making me crack up, especially the part when, the childhood friend Fuitaro confronted Itsuki and Nino. Nino was having none of it. She was not having none of it. She was like, excuse me, who the hell do you think you are? look, I know Fuutaro more better than anybody else in here. Please, you may be his childhood friend, but I've known him for the past 3 years. And everything. He's my tutor, um, which it was absolutely funny. Childhood friend did look like she took some things personal because we do find out the childhood friend actually does have somewhat of a crush on Futaro, but when she ends up finding out, like, oh no, these sisters, they really do. We actually find out too that guess what? The childhood friend, and I think they said this in season two, as well. I just don't remember because it's been a while since I've seen season two. But we find out that Futaro's childhood friend actually helped him and tutored him, so she was his tutor, which ended up helping out him getting all smart and everything to the point that he ends up tutoring the quintuplets. I think it was a nice kind of dynamic type of thing, but it was absolutely hilarious when all the quintuplets were taking so much offense to this to Futaro's childhood friend, especially Nino is like, "Who the fuck are you? You need to get out of here." Now Yotsuba actually gets a little bit pissed off about this because she feels like, "No, I know Futaro better than anybody else and everything," so she starts around. Now that's when I thought she ended up collapsing, but the thing is, she actually ends up running into the childhood friend, and the childhood friend actually knew that, oh, Futaro met Yotsuba back on the Kyoto trip way back when they were younger and everything, before Futaro had his whole change. And she's like, how the hell do you know that? And she was like, well, Futaro wouldn't stop talking about you, you know? He was always saying, like, oh, because that girl was his first crush and everything. And then she ended up passing out. Obviously, she passed out because she was doing too much and everything, and kind of her whole thing is she was comparing herself to the other quintuplets and everything, and she had this whole self-esteem issue of like, well, because we cut back to the flashback and her and Futaro make the whole promise of studying to help out their parents, which that was a really cute thing. That was a really cute thing. They both are poor. They're both living in families that are very poor and barely, struggling to keep roofs under their houses. And they're like, well, if we study really hard and we get a good paying job, we can be able to take care of our family, our parents and everything. And I really do like that. It's a nice thing for a kid to want to always be there for and be for your parents. That's what you do in real life. You get a good paying job, so then guess what? You can not only provide for yourself and your family, but hell, maybe provide for your mom or dad if they're going through tough times in their later years of their life and everything. It was believable. And the thing is, Yotsuba had a whole self-esteem issue with this whole thing, as she was comparing herself to the other quintuplets. She was saying, well, if I need to achieve this dream, I need to be the best quintuplet. I need to be the best out of my sisters. I need to be the most special out of my sisters, and everything. I have to do everything pretty much. And I have to show that I'm that important, that special, so then I can be able to provide for my mom and everything. And her mom says, listen, I don't really care. You don't have to be better than your sisters. You're all special towards me. And guess what? All your sisters have something about each other that makes you special in your own individual way. And and again, she's going through this self-esteem issue through middle school where, she's doing all these tasks and everything, all these clubs, all these sports and everything. And she's thinking, like, oh, I'm the best quintuplet. I'm doing all these things successfully. People love me. I'm the best out of my sisters and everything. And it comes to that point. It comes to the minutes when the teacher's like, yeah, you're being held back. Your grades aren't good. And she's all like, what do you mean? I'm doing all these things. I'm the best and everything. And the teacher's like, no, you're not. You're failing. You were failing classes. I've been warning you about this for years, and for weeks and months at this point, that you're not doing good and everything. And then it leads to the whole conversation where Maro's telling her, like, we're gonna transfer you to another school so you can be good. And we find out how the sisters also go that because it's the whole thing of, well, if she's going, then we're going. We find out, I guess they cheated on their test. That's why they passed their test. All of them passed, which again shows you the bond between the sisters, that they have each other's back and everything. So yeah, but that was kind of her whole thing. At the also too, she was also trying to forget her past about her and Futaro, back when they met when they were kids. She ends up giving him a kiss. Itsuki actually too, to make a mention, she's the only quintuplet that doesn't give Futaro a kiss. Um, it looks like she was about to give Futaro a kiss, but no. She actually doesn't, which honestly I'm actually cool with because I feel like Itsuki and Futaro, they have more of a platonic relationship more than a romantic relationship. I feel like, yes, Itsuki can admit that she may have feelings for him, but I honestly feel like she doesn't because after her reaction to Futaro not choosing her, she actually takes it really well. And it shows to me like she may not like him that much. Um or she may not have that much romantic feelings for him that much because you know she doesn't kiss him. I feel like they're more of a very close knit friendship where he always will support her on her goals and her dreams of being a teacher because well he taught her some things and she has an appreciation, a respect and a thanks for that because Futaro helped her become a better person, a smarter person, the person she wants to achieve today, to achieve today. Um, so yes, the whole scene to Futaro, what is it to Futaro choosing the sisters was nice. It was a whole thing where the sisters ended up texting Futaro, "Hey, we're gonna be in our rooms, our separate rooms that pretty much identify us as a characters. I'm like as characters. We're gonna go there. You just go to one of those rooms, and if we see you, boom, that's when we'll know you chose us." And again, throughout the whole thing, um throughout the film, as we're going through the different quintuplet stories, we're seeing them just sitting in that one classroom waiting for Futaro. As at the same time, we're seeing Futaro walk up, and you see how he walks up. He walks up. He opens his door. They play it off like, oh, he's going into one of the classrooms, but in reality, he goes to the nurse's office. And we had it to where, um, Yotsuba actually goes back because she left her phone there, and he was like, "Hey," and she turns around and she's like, uh, uh, and everything. Now, in her story, she thought Futaro wasn't going to choose her, and everything, especially the fact that she was going to move on from the past and everything, which it's another negative. Again, it's a slight nitpick. Now Futaro was aware of the fact that Yotsuba was a fake Itsuki in season 2. That when they went to Kyoto that second time before they left, she ended up falling on top of him. They ended up kissing. She does not explain to him, or she does not tell him, I was the girl you met all those years ago. That I was the little girl you met all those years ago in Kyoto. I wish she had said that, but she does not tell him that whatsoever. And it's weird because all the other quintuplet girls know, his childhood friend knew, Futaro's childhood friend knew. I don't know why Yotsuba did not bring that up. That was a weird part of the story. I'm like, especially when it came down to her finally admitting that she was in love with Futaro. When she told it to him in his face, and even when she was telling Nino in the classroom, like, I'm in love with Futaro, I really am in love with Futaro and everything. I've been in love with him since I first met him back when we were kids. I don't know why she never did that. Futaro never knew that, oh, that little girl that was pretending to be Reina was actually Yotsuba. Don't know why she never said that. That would have made a lot more sense. But obviously, with this whole decision, it was a nice scene. The tension was really there and everything. And when it was revealed, Yotsuba was just like, there's no way. There's no way. Like, you can't like me the most out of the sisters. All the other sisters have things. What about Nino? She really loves you. What about Miku? And obviously, Futaro's like, yeah, I know that, but at the end of the day, I like you the most. I'm in love with you, Yotsuba. I, you know, um, And Yotuba's just absolutely so shocked about this. She ends up just running away. He's like, wait, what are you doing? And he has to chase after her again. We get the as obviously Fuutaro chooses Yotsuba as the girl he's in love with. We do cut over the quintuplets, each and every one of them, and they have a scene where they all focus on all of them and their reactions. Itsuki, yeah, Itsuki, Miku, and Ichika, they all take it fairly well. Like they all take it well enough. Like they're obviously heartbroken. You can see on each and every one of their faces, they're all heartbroken, but they actually take it well. Again, mind you, like I mentioned earlier in this review, in the spoiler review, the one that broke me the most was probably Nino because she knew like he didn't choose me. And she was breaking down. And when you get that scene when Miku shows up in her room and she's like, it's over. He chose Yotsuba pretty much. She broke down and she was crying, and I was like, fuck, that hits, man. Because again, like I made a mention, Nina was actually legitimately in love with Fuutaro. When she found out about the whole secret identity and everything, she actually grew to know Fuutaro a lot better, and she actually grew to like him for the things or for the guy he was. Honestly, if I was the author, I would have hooked him up with Nino probably the most because it's kind of the whole thing of opposites attract. She wasn't really into him, and plus she was like the tsundere type of girl, and everything. That and ended up growing to like the guy. You know, she would if I was the other, I would have chose Nino, but that's just me. But yeah, she Yotsuba runs off because she just can't accept the fact that Futaro chose her, and she doesn't really want to accept the feelings she has for Futaro yet. To the point they obviously have this moment where she trips. You know, he ends up breaking down, or she ends up breaking down. She ends up crying, pretty much saying that she's in love with him. Now, I thought she would go on to say, like, the reason why I'm in love with you is because I've always been in love with you since the day we first met, all the way back in Kyoto. And then there's when she says, like, I was the little girl you knew way back then. But we find out some information, again, it looks like, oh, they're going to start going out and everything. We find out no, they don't start, they're not dating. She's still having this inner conflict within herself and everything. And we have it to where the other sisters pretty much are telling her, listen, it's gonna be okay, you don't have to worry. Now the reason why she doesn't automatically start dating Futaro is because she's afraid, are worried about her sisters and how they will feel about this whole situation. Like she doesn't, I guess in a way, she doesn't want things to be awkward between her and her sisters. Like Miku's like, listen, what's the point? Hey, if you really love him, you should go for it. It's not going, you don't have to be worried about us. Yes, is it hard for us to deal with the fact that guess what? We wasn't the one he chose, yes, but he chose you and you love him, so go for it. Obviously, Ichiko was telling Fujiro, hey, you need to go make your move. Go find her and go tell her how you feel and everything, which he pretty much already did, but he's pretty much telling her, like, listen, you need to freaking go make your move on her and truly tell her how you truly feel about her and how much she means to you. Her and Nino kind of have a little bit of an argument and a back and forth, and pretty much Nino's telling Yotsuba, like, hey, if it was me, I'd be all over that and I'd be taking advantage of it, unlike you and everything, who's just going to sit by and do nothing because, oh, you're afraid that, guess what? Our feelings would be hurt because he chose you, please. And, she does make Yotsuba makes this line also too, where it's like it was weird, and even Nino brings it up. She's because Yotsuba's like, "Well, I love him," and Nino's like, "Well, you're saying that, but what your motives are make absolutely no sense. How the hell are you trying? How the hell? Why the hell are you avoiding him? But you're in love with him. Makes no sense and everything." But it kind of goes again. It's all played in her backstory. The fact that she doesn't want to feel as much as this highly special sister compared to the others and everything. At the same time, the thing that was holding her back from fully committing to the full-on relationship with Futaro um was the fact that she didn't want her sisters to be hurt so much by it and everything, while instead her sisters are like, listen, we're fine with that and we're coping with it the best we can, and eventually at some point we will get over this heartbreak of ours, but guess what, this should be your time to be happy, be with the guy you love, and everything. So yeah, and also too, we also do find out that when Yotsuba first saw Futaro, she knew, oh, that's the guy that I saw all those years ago. That's him, which again makes freaking complete sense that she would fall for him, because she fell for him back then when they were kids. Makes sense she would fall for him now. They go out on a date. They go to certain places that Futaro's like. They go to like a family diner that Futaro's family would go to a lot, the library, and then the last place they go to is the swing set area they went to in season 2, when Futaro ended up getting to know Ichika a little bit, or not Ichika, um, Yotsuba a little bit better. And pretty much she jumps off and everything, and Futaro is like, well, if I can jump farther than you, then you have to listen to what I'm about to say. Now, I thought like he was gonna say like, were you that little girl I met all those years ago in Kyoto? And then she would say, yes, I was. No, he doesn't do that. The way that happens is absolutely funny, because the freaking chain off the swing set like breaks off. He goes flying, he falls, and Yotsuba's like, wait, you're not dead. I would be like, yo, that freaking. And it was funny too, because I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, there was like a bar railing right there. I'm like, what if he fell off so far that he goes past the railing to where the mountains are, and then he has a really bad injury, or he freaking dies? That would be absolutely. I don't know why I thought about that. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm a bad person. But I probably would have burst out laughing if that would have happened. But no, he doesn't die, even though Yotsuba's like, wait, you're not dead yet. And pretty much we have it to where Futaro, he confesses his feelings, and he freaking flat out proposes to Yotsuba and says, will you marry me? And I was like, what? Marriage? And even Yotsuba's like, aren't you stepping a little? Aren't you going over like a few steps or a lot of steps? And he's like, oh yeah, I am, but will you marry me? Pretty much. I'm like, my God, you haven't even went to college yet. You're already proposing to this girl. Yeah, but the whole thing also too was Yosef was trying to was finding out, was also trying to remember what her dream was, or her goal was, because again, all the quintuplets had their individual goals and everything. Her goal was really cliche and everything, because you would think with her being an athletic type of person, you think, oh, and even Futaro brought them up when they were in the library, like, so do you want to be like some sort of professional sports athlete? She's like, no, it's not that. It's kind of cliche, but she's like, can you promise me that you'll make my dream of being a bride come true? Which was pretty much her saying yes to his proposal that she would marry him. Which I thought it was I thought it was cliche. I'm like, now is your dream just to be a bride? Cliche, yeah, cliche and a weird dream, but I'm just like, okay, all right, fine, all right. You want to be a bride? You want to be a bride? Cool, fine, 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 fine. So yeah. We find out that Futaro, as they're ending off their school year in high school, he ended up going to college in Tokyo. Now, I honestly thought he was about to make this announcement, like, oh, he's going overseas, he's going to college in the United States. No, he doesn't. He actually says he's going to college in Tokyo. And the sisters are like, okay, it's not like we can't see you over there anyways, but we knew you'd go to some big city. Which was funny, that whole thing and everything. So yeah, we get the 5 year time skip, so they end up getting married after they're done with college. We see how some of them end up actually going to college. Some Miku, for example, she doesn't go to college. I think her and Nino don't go to college. They go to some culinary school. While Itsuki ends up going to college. Yotsuba also ends up going to college. And everything. Yeah. The 5 years pass. We actually get some we find out what the quintuplets have been doing. We find out that Ichika, she's a big pretty much act she's a big famous actress. She actually does some movies. She's actually doing filming for movies and stuff like that in the United States. She says her English is not the best, but she's improving on it and everything. Itsuki is a full-fledged teacher. She actually jokes with Ichika about her English and everything. She's a teacher, so of course she would know and everything. We have it to where Miku and Nino, they actually start a restaurant, or they actually start like a little restaurant together. It's called Nakano. They're actually like working together. They're both cooking and everything because they got their whole things. And it was thanks to Futaro's dad that helped him out get started on there with this whole shop and or this whole little mini restaurant and everything. It was pretty cool. So we find out Yotsuba's her whole thing, it's not really explained what she's doing in her future. To me, it sounds like she's just, I guess, waiting to be married and everything. And I'm guessing if her and Futaro ever have a kid, she's gonna just be a stay-at-home mom. They never explain. That's another thing that I kind of don't like. They gave all the other quintuplets a goal of a career that they want to aspire to be in. They kind of gave Yotsuba no goal. It's just like, oh, and that's what I said earlier. It's kind of cliche, like you just want to be a bride. Like there's nothing else you wanted to do. So the sisters all meet it for the first time in like in 5 years and everything. So the wedding comes and everything. Futaro ends up having to talk with Maro about taking care of the daughters and everything, taking care of his daughter Yotsuba, yada yada yada. um the quintuplets play the whole guess whose sister is who game again on him, and he's like, are you guys serious? On my wedding day, do you guys really have to do this freaking game one final time? And I feel like it was a way for the other sister to say, well, we want to make sure you know who we are before we hand off our sister to you. And this time and finally, Futaro breaks down each and every one of the sisters, getting them each and every one of them right and not fooling for the looks department and everything. And that just goes to the fact that he knows them very well from the time he spent with them for the 3 years in high school they had together. And then the whole tutoring and everything. Um, they had their wedding ceremony and everything. They have their speech. Pretty much Futaro thanks everybody else for coming. Well, Yotsuba, she pretty much thanks everybody that's gotten her to the point she is, especially her sisters. And she says, if it wasn't without my sisters, I wouldn't be here today. And pretty much the movie ends off with them planning their honeymoon trip and everything. Also to Yotsuba, what is it? It was absolutely funny. You get a funny scene where my boy Futaro was embarrassed about the kiss they had at the altar and everything. And that's when we get the reference that Futaro knew that it was Yotsuba that kissed him back in Kyoto in season 2 after their Kyoto trip in high school, when she was dressed up as Itsuki. And then we have it to where this one girl looks to give Yotsuba her ribbon, the ribbon that identifies her. And she looks at it and she's like, I'll take it. Thank you for that. And then she's like, wait, no. And she remembers to what her mom says. She's like, listen, you don't need something to identify yourselves. You're all special in your own individual ways. And I feel like this was a character growth development moment for Yotsuba to end the old life of her and start this new life with Futaro and be a Yotsuba that is special in her own way. And she doesn't need a green ribbon to identify who she is. She's her own She's her own woman, pretty much, which is nice development for her. It was kind of that with her finding herself and everything. And so yeah, and pretty much the movie ends off with them deciding where they want to go with the honeymoon, which was funny because Nino's like, shouldn't you guys know every time it ends after a wedding, after every time a wedding's over, that's what the bride and the groom do. Newlyweds have to do. They have to go on a honeymoon, and the sisters are going with them. I don't know why the sisters are going with them on their honeymoon, but okay. It's kind of a callback. It's kind of a callback because they have a quick little flashback moment to the moment after Futaro proposed to Futaro proposed to Yotsuba, and it was them planning their graduation trip where they want to go to graduation. It was these different places in Japan. This time, it's them pointing at different locations in the world where they should go for their honeymoon, and pretty much they're like, Futaro, you're the one that needs to choose for us. So yeah, and then Futaro pretty much makes a mention of the movie's ending like these crazy freaking sisters, but at the end of the day, I freaking love them. So yeah, and that's where the movie ends off. That is where the movie ends off. I thought this movie had a solid ending. I'm fine with Yotsuba being the winner. Now I will say this: Yotsuba winning is kind of out of nowhere, especially for a character that when you look at season 1 and 2, she doesn't get as much development as some of the other sisters. Like, let's be honest. Nino, Miku, and Ichika are kind of the three sisters that get the most development through the first 2 seasons. Like, you get an established development for those three. They really do focus on them the most. Like, Yotsuba and Itsuki are the two sisters in the back burner that don't get the most development. And everything. They're kind of like side characters. Like, the only time I remember Yotsuba getting a very character heavy development moment, hold on a quick second, guys. Yeah, back to what I was saying. But yeah, they developed Miku, Ichika, and Nino a lot for the first 2 seasons. Itsuki and Yotsuba, they didn't develop nearly as much. And like I was saying, the only time I can remember Yotsuba getting legitimate development from the first 2 seasons was probably that one episode in season 2 when it was that swing set moment between her and Futaro and they spent the day together. And I was like, other than that, I can't really recall any other moment where Futaro and Yotsuba had moments, and Yotsuba got a lot of character development where we get more understanding of her character. Other than, I guess you can say, the whole track team thing. Other than that, no. Now I'm not mad because that's the thing. I'm just saying it's out of the blue because they made Futaro choose somebody, or the winner between the quintuplets is a girl that didn't get as much development as some other girls. Like, if I'm being honest, Itsuki and Yotsuba, they get the most development in this film alone because they actually focus and put time on their characters. Season 1 and 2, they barely get I'm not saying they don't get screen time, but they barely get moments where they get very well developed. And dare I say, I think Itsuki gets a little bit more development, a little bit more than what Yotsuba gets. But ultimately, it's nothing that I'm gonna throw up in arms and be upset about. Listen, now that I can go into spoilers, really, like I said at the end of my non-spoiler review, the moral of this story was truly not about who will Futaro end up with and who will he choose, which quintuplet. Yes, that was a part of the whole mystery. It was a part of the whole thing when the show first started, the anime first started. Who is he going to choose between the 5 sisters that he ends up marrying in the future? Yes, that's obviously an element, but the one element, especially how it's spoken through this movie, it's mostly this series as a whole isn't about the marriage thing. It isn't about what quintuplet wins. This series was about the characters and the development they go through through the first 2 seasons and this movie to by the time they end by the time they end with this movie, on the characters they were from season one to where they're at by the end of the movie. Fuutaro is a completely different character by the end of the quintuplets, at the end of this series and with the movie, compared to what we saw him in season one. In season one, and in this movie, he makes an acknowledgement about that to his friends, saying how he was kind of an enclosed guy who kept to himself. He was pretty much a loner character. He stayed away of everybody. Nobody kind of got in his way, and he stayed on his own. But by tutoring the quintuplets, getting to know them better, and having the quintuplets nature rub off on him, he ended up becoming more open, more outgoing. He ended up becoming a character that actually, at the end of the day, he actually ended up creating a relationship with these sisters, creating a bond with these sisters, falling in love with the sisters pretty much, and eventually growing a heart to care. Because you remember when Fuutaro first, you go back to season one when he was first tutoring the sisters obviously didn't give him no respect. Again, I wouldn't blame him in this situation. He didn't give them no respect, and he's like, you know what? If you're gonna feel like that, why should I freaking care? And he was only doing that out of the kindness of his heart. That hey, he's getting paid a lot of money to help out the sisters get good grades, and he's even through all the BS and the stuff he dealt with, he ended up still dealing with it. And over time, as the more he got to have these one-on-one personal moments with these sisters and started to understand their life and get to know them better, he grew a more of appreciation. He grew alongside them, and he became a better character for it, and a more outgoing character, as well as acknowledging his feelings, that he pretty much loves all of them now. Now he of course he loves all of them, because one's his wife in Yotsuba, and the others are pretty much his sister, or are his sisters pretty much. Um and everything. The quintuplets, just like Fuutaro, they grew. It's like I made a mention. Yes, their personalities, the personalities that made them the characters we all love, they're still there, but they had their developmental moments, and they all grew and had great character development from the characters they were once when we saw them at the start of season one, when they were snobby rich kids that didn't really give a shit about school. They didn't really fucking care about they didn't really care about their grades, and in some cases the sisters really didn't care about each other. Like, let's be honest, in some cases, the sisters really didn't care about each other. Yeah, they said they had each other's backs and they're sisters and everything, but at the end of the day, they really ultimately didn't. In some cases, there was times where they were feuding, they were beefing with each other. And yes, siblings are going to fight with one another, but there's moments where you could see like maybe they would just not even care about one another. But as the season progressed, the more they got to know Fuutaro and everything, and the more they started to acknowledge their dreams and their recognition of what they would like to do after high school, they became different characters. They grew as characters, and also too, they grew as a family. They grew as sisters, because they knew, hey, we may be long away, we may be far away from each other, but the number one thing we are is we're a family, we're sisters, and we'll always be together. And when one of us is in trouble, guess what? We'll all be there for that one sister. And it goes to show you the development. And I think that's the whole thing. It's always the journey. It's always the steps you take of a journey before you get to the end. And I think, in my opinion, that makes the ending a whole lot sweeter. Because if you take out the whole factor of Yotsuba winning, Fuutaro choosing which quintuplet, if you look at that demographic of it's these six characters meeting each other, and they all have an influence on each other's life so much that they become different people from when they all first met to where they end up at, which is pretty much now they're all related. They're all family now. It's just a great thing, and it's a journey. It was a nice journey to see these characters all freaking grow and change and go for the better. Like these, especially the quintuplets, girls that look like they didn't have any aspirations of what they wanted to do when they become adults. Now, and you look at all of them. Ichika is a famous movie star now as an adult. Nino and Miku, they're working together and having a family. Looks like they might have a family business restaurant that may get even more popular. And I did like the fact how Ichika was like, I could take a picture and send this to my followers and people can show up. And they're like, no, no, we want to grow this the old fashioned way. Maybe at some point later, then yes, maybe, but we want to grow this old fashioned way. Itsuki, her goal of being a teacher, that was her whole thing, aspiring to be like her mom, be a teacher. And obviously, Yotsuba being a bride and falling in love with the man she's been in love with for her entire life. And also, too, with that whole thing, technically speaking, with how these romance shows go, how these rom-com shows go, guess what? Well, how do these rom-com romance shows go when it comes to, especially these harem shows, too? It's always typically the first girl that meets the main male character that ends up winning. Now, yes, you can say, well, it's technically Itsuki that met Fuutaro first. If we're looking at the history of the quintuplet sisters and Fuutaro, who was the first quintuplet sister that ultimately met Fuutaro? Yotsuba. That's why she ended up winning. Yes. Is it out of the blue? Is it kind of a little bit sounds like a rush decision? Does it not make sense with the fact that her character doesn't get as much development? Yes. But at the end of the day, Fuutaro chose her because he loves her for the reason he loves her for, and there's really nothing else you can take away. When you're in love, you're in love. So that's also another thing I wanted to make a mention of to people who may not be as upset. But ultimately, the more moral of the purpose is this story wasn't really about Fuutaro choosing Yotsuba as his wife or one of the quintuplet sisters. The whole moral of the story was the development of Fuutaro as well as the quintuplet sisters from their journey from when they all first met each other to where they ended up and end up now at the end of the film. And I think that's just a beautiful story told by the author. And like I said, you don't have to like the decision of Yotsuba ending up being married to Fuutaro. Again, my favorite quintuplet was Nino. I thought Nino or hell, even Miku would have been a better option for him to marry. And then maybe in some cases, maybe even Itsuki, just from the standpoint that their friendship was pretty strong as well. Um, you know, but it didn't end up like that. And the thing is, Yotsuba ended up winning. She saw him for the first time in high school, and she fell for him like as when she was a kid all those years ago, and everything. And you know, she also felt that Futaro always helped her. So it's kind of the whole thing if she wants to go help Futaro out. So I think it's a cute story. It's a really great story. Ultimately, ending off the series, the Quintessential Quintuplets is one of the best series I have ever experienced. One of the best rom-com series. Again, maybe the way the ending has maybe affects your thoughts on it, but honestly, I don't look at the ending just based on the choosing aspect. I look at it on based on the character development and the journey the characters went. You may say that's bullshit and everything, but honestly, I feel like if you look in the heart of this series, it wasn't really about what Futaro what quintuplet chose Futaro. That was just one piece of the series. The real thing was seeing these sisters, seeing these characters, seeing Futaro, but mostly seeing these sisters. Would they be able to get through high school and become obviously regular modern day society and grow and have careers? And at the end of the day, they all achieved that, and they all grew, and they all changed as characters for the better, because they make mentions, even Futaro included, they all make mentions like, if it wasn't for Futaro, the sisters say, if it wasn't for Futaro, I never would have been the person I am today. And Futaro's whole case is, if I never met the quintuplets, I wouldn't be the person I am now. I'd be that same person way back at the start of season 1. And that's something that I obviously appreciate and everything. And that's the thing that I value the most about this story. And that's why I feel like Quintessential Quintuplets is one of the best stories that I've witnessed. And maybe that's what the author of the series was going for. Maybe he wasn't going for this whole romance angle. Maybe he just made a decision just to make a decision on Yotsuba winning. I don't know the inner workings of the author. I think his whole thing was, I want to show to my audience the characters that grew from chapter 1 to the final chapter of the manga, or from episode 1 to the ending of the movie. And it was a nice heartwarming story, heart um breaking story and everything. But I really did like it. I really did like it. And I'm gonna really freaking miss this series. But I thought this series had a really beautiful ending. And it shows that, guess what? Fuutaro is always gonna be around the quintuplets. His wife now is one of them, and two, the other four are his new sisters. So I feel like if we ever were to get like some sort of epilogue in the future to see what's going on, if we see Futaro and Yotsuba ever had children, do the quintuplets ever end up getting married? Which I think they would end up getting married to somebody else at some point. They would have to get over the Futaro thing, and things like that. So that would be cool if we did get an epilogue. I would have loved. I typically, when it comes to these anime shows, I would always love to get an epilogue where we see, okay, how are these characters doing now? But obviously, when there's no more story left to be told, there's no more story left to be told. But I definitely did enjoy the quintessential quintuplets. It finally sucks that it's over now, but it's a nice heartwarming story. I definitely, when this movie comes to streaming, I'm definitely gonna rewatch all the quintessential quintuplet episodes and then this movie again. So yeah, kind of it. I had something in the thought of my head I was gonna say, and then I freaking forgot it, man. I freaking forgot it. Whatever. I'm Shrek, man. I'm gonna remember it, and then I'm just gonna be like, shit. But whatever. But another anime series is done, and yeah, really gonna miss Quintessential Quintuplets. A really good show. Again, props to, again, I watched the English dub. I didn't watch the sub, but I think that I would imagine the sub cast killed it. But to the English dub cast, I don't know if they're checking this out, but they freaking killed it. They knocked it out of the freaking park. And I'm gonna miss them reprising their roles as these characters, but they all did a great job from seasons 1 to 2 to even this movie. And they did a great job making the characters feel really dang good. And I had it and then I lost it again, but it is what it is. Again, I was shocked this movie was pretty long as is. It's a 2 hour movie, 2 hour and 16-minute movie. Fairly shockingly long anime movie. I wish freaking Dragon Ball could have a 2 hour freaking movie. But then again, it makes sense with the fact that they had to adapt pretty much the remaining chapters of this movie. So yeah, and again, like I said, I thought they fleshed out all the characters really well. They gave each quintuplet some good chances to shine, and gave them all moments of development and everything. So yeah. But anyways, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. If you guys like the video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts on the quintessential quintuplets movies. If you've seen it, do you like it? Do you like if Yotsuba won? Again, just post a little spoiler thing for people if they haven't seen the movie, out of respect and stuff like that. Yeah. Again, great movie. I would give this movie, honestly, a 9 out of 10. I really did enjoy this movie. Other than the slight little nitpicks I had in this film, I really did enjoy this film. And I can't wait to see this film again when it comes to streaming. I don't know when it's going to come to Crunchyroll. It's probably going to be a while, a few months, but yeah, but can't wait for more. But anyways, guys, if you guys like the video, leave a like, put in the comment section your thoughts on this movie and everything else I mentioned in this film, as well as hit the subscribe button if you want to get more Cam-Free 15 content. Again, I talk anime, movies, and some video games and stuff like that. But yeah. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Stay safe out there and have a great rest of your night. Until then, guys, peace.